Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Christensen. I'm of BKR Farms here in Grace, Idaho, a little small town southeast Idaho. We're about 45 minutes southeast of Pocatello, north of Logan, Utah, really close to the Idaho-Utah border. And I'm a fifth generation farmer. I'm just a simple guy here trying to make a living, grow up raising a family, have a beautiful wife, 4 beautiful children, and I love farming. But I started this channel because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there. A few months ago, I was watching a New York Times editorial, and it was just full of complete lies. I mean, you couldn't believe all the lies and the misinformation that they were sharing about agriculture, talking about how we were destroying the land and we didn't care what we were robbing of the earth, and we were just, poisoning the water and purposely poisoning the ground, and we weren't providing a sustainable future for our children and for America and the world. And it really angered me. And so since that time, I've thought about creating a YouTube channel to share more of the information that we have and the things that we're doing as a family farm and as a farming cultural in general. We're moving towards more of a regenerative agricultural practices, which I know that's like a catchphrase. It's getting tossed out there all the time about regenerative farming, sustainable farming. And what does that even mean? This YouTube channel will really help answer some questions, and it will give a place for people to come and have a conversation about what's working on their farm, what's working on other farms, what's not working. I'm a big believer that every day you got to wake up and you got to improve. And if you're not improving, you're done. You're finished. The day I wake up in the morning and I look at my day, whether it's farming or being a husband or a father, and I think, man, there's no room for improvement. That's the day that, I'm going to throw the truck keys on the floor, on the counter, and be like, I'm done. There's no point to go to work today. And so I feel like we can always be improving. We can always be sharing. About my family farm, I'm a fifth generation farmer. I farm with my brother, Kyle. And, my farm was started in the late 1800s by my great-great-grandpa, Ferdinand Christensen. He spent his summers here in Grace with a plow, plowing out the sagebrush that was as tall as the horse that was pulling the plow. He was here with my great-grandfather, Ferdinand Christensen. They spent a couple summers plowing and breaking it out of sagebrush and building a very rudimentary log cabin for the rest of the family to move here and to start a family, to start a generational family farm. And in the 1930s, my grandfather, Kenneth Christensen, took over the family farm. And at the time, it was wheat, barley, alfalfa for the livestock operation. My dad tells me stories of milking cows and having cows and chickens and pigs on a regular basis. And my dad took over the farm in the 1970s when he married my mom and moved to Grace. My dad was born and raised in the same home that I was raised in. And it's very special to feel like that tied to the land and tied to the family. And it's pretty cool when I sit there and I'm in a tractor and I'm thinking, man, I'm farming the same ground that's been farmed for over 100 years, and I want to take care of it. And my dad, he really took the farm to new heights. He introduced potatoes in the 1970s, which was a huge thing to take on. He brought in, new irrigation practices. He put up irrigation pivots that were self-propelled rather than using manual pipe and manual labor and flood irrigation. And he really took the farm to places that it hadn't been for the previous 100 years. My brother Kyle, he's 10 years older than me. He's the oldest of 5 children, and I'm the baby. I'm the youngest of the family. We have 3 sisters in between us. My brother came to the farm in 1998, I believe, and farmed with my dad for the next 10 years while I finished high school, served a mission for my church, and went to college, went to Brigham Young University in Provo. And I wasn't really thinking I was going to come back to the farm. I was thinking, different things. I was a lot of different majors in college, tried a lot of different things. And then, I decided I wanted to come back to the farm. And at BYU at the time, they didn't have agriculture anymore. They had shipped agriculture to a former junior college that they had made a 4-year school that was more rural in Idaho and more central to agriculture. But I still wanted to stay at BYU in Provo, which I'm grateful for. That's where I met my wife. And, I got a degree in landscape management because, a little side note, when I said my dad took our farm to new heights in the mid-90s, he decided to build a golf course. Yeah, we have a golf course in the middle of our farm. And Caribou Highlands Golf and RV. And so I was like, I had that turf aspect, but I also wanted farming. So I became a landscape management major, and I went to my counselor and said, hey, I'm going back to a family farm, and there's some of these classes that I really don't need. They're not really pertinent to my future, my education. Can I substitute some of these plant classes for, more advanced soil science or a more advanced plant nutrition? They're like, sure, yeah, we can totally substitute some of these non-core classes for that. So my degree's in landscape management, but I'd really, have like a subset of soil science and plant nutrition. I met some amazing scientists while I was there, which we still do scientific research, which I'm going to have some YouTube videos on the research that we've done. Because of that science background, I love doing trials. Like, we do trials all the time on the farm, and a lot of my YouTube videos are going to be on some of the research trials and the trial and error that we've done, so that we can learn. And I feel like I've been so blessed to do so many different things that it's time that I share it. And so we're going to do that. Now, when I came back to the family farm in 2008, a few things, and we started growing some oats. We started growing different varieties of potatoes. We weren't just, russet Burbanks anymore, or russets in a white variety. We started expanding into chip varieties and public chip varieties, and we started growing fingerlings, and it really started to take off, and things started to change. But what really changed the farm, and what really, took it to this regenerative, sustainable farming, was in 2017. I was on a canoe trip with some young men from our church, and we were canoeing down the Bear River that runs through our beautiful valley here in Caribou County, Idaho. And as we were going through this farmland, the other adult leader that was with me with these other young men he happened to be our NRCS agent. And as we were going through this farmland, he started telling about all these cool different things that local farmers were doing. He started telling about no-till, how farmers were eliminating tillage equipment, eliminating hours in the tractor, just turning the soil, and rather planting directly into the crop residue that was left behind from the previous crop, in order to not have the soil dry out, not to kill soil microbes, and to allow some cover for the bare soil, so you cut down on wind and water erosion. And started telling about these cover crops that were planted, where people would plant 3 or 5 species at once on a fallow year. And a fallow year is basically when you leave the ground bare to give it a rest for a year, so that you're not just constantly growing and taking from the soil. But in that fallow year, you have weed pressure, you have wind erosion, you have water erosion. And he says, guys are planting these cover crops, these 3 to 5 species, and these cover crops would then grow. When it rained, they would, allow the water to go into the soil instead of off of it. Wind couldn't blow the ground away, and then you would terminate these cover crops and plant your cash crop into it. And it just was like blowing my mind. I just thought, wow, sounds really cool. This stuff is like something that I would really like to do on our farm. And so I went home and I started talking to my dad and brother, and at first they were a little skeptical, but we started the journey. And 2018 we bought, we started planting cover crops. 2019 we sold our tillage drill and bought a no-till drill, John Deere 1910 cart with an 1890 no-till implement behind it. In 2020 we added flax and mustard to our mix. No more were we just a barley, wheat, potatoes. And 2021 we bought a shell-borne stripper header, which instead of cutting all the straw off and having all that residue, it leaves all the stubble and it leaves it tall to catch the rain, the snow in the wintertime, and keeps the ground from the wind blowing it around. And in 2022 is just starting. We're just here, and we are so excited for this year. We've added safflower to our mix. My goal is to have a living plant in every acre on my 4,000 acre farm. And I couldn't have done it without my dad and my brother's support. My brother and I, we're on the same page, and it's super exciting. Please subscribe to my channel, hit the subscribe button. I'm hoping to have enough content that it'll be worth your time to be here. And I really feel like I want this to be a place of learning, a place where we can come and share ideas, share successes, share failures. So please comment, please share this with friends, family, and let's make it a better place so we can prove that New York Times editor wrong, that farming is part of the answer, not part of the problem with the future, and so that we can all, be better stewards in the land and take farming to new heights. So once again, subscribe, and I'll catch you in my next video.